We'll move on to our second panel of the day. This will put the focus on rebooting food and leisure, setting the architecture for India's next generation social retail spaces. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and join me in welcoming our panel on stage. He is Chief Executive Officer, Natural Salons and Spa. A warm welcome to C.K. Kumrawal. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, I think we can give them a warm round of applause. Thank you. He is Chief Executive Officer, the Belgian Waffle Company. A warm welcome to Ankit Patel. He is Chief Executive Officer and founder, Songdew. Please welcome Sunil Khanna. A warm welcome to Chief Executive Officer, Gravis Foods Private Limited, Baskin Robbins, Mohit Khattar. He is Director and Co-founder, Slay Coffee. Please welcome Chaitanya Chitta. Joining us online, we have the co-founder, Chaayos, Raghav Verma. And ladies and gentlemen, our moderator is Senior Associate Director, Advisory and Transaction Services, CBRE South Asia. Please welcome Saket Amrit. Mr. Saket Amrit. Okay, and we'll patch Mr. Raghav Verma, co-founder Chaayos in. He's joining us virtually. We'll patch him in by and by. But right now it's over to Saket Amrit. Yes, we've got Raghav Verma online with us as well. Welcome, Raghav.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And absolutely perfect, Raghav. Thank you for joining us. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today. We have on stage some of the industry leaders from retail and leisure industry. And I'm glad to be sharing the stage with some of the original people who come up with some of the original ideas of our times, and people who have really redefined some of the old ideas and made it relevant for the modern times. And what we're going to discuss today is how the retail and leisure industry, is there a need to reboot? And what are the expectations do we have from the placemakers, the shopping center developers for the new generation retail? Is it going to be redefined as well? My first question would be...
in progress.
All right, great. So my first question probably would be to Ankit. Ankit, pandemic is one part where we all understand that there's a massive shift, or maybe some shift in how consumers behave, how we sort of change our strategies, etc. But if you look at the larger picture, you have a new generation coming in, and the consumption patterns, of course, are changing. What are your thoughts on your product, which is, I understand, has a huge space now to really grow? How do you sort of change your strategies, keeping the pandemic in context, of course, but on the larger part of how the generational shifts are happening? Do you see a massive shift in consumption pattern going forward already, and you're preparing yourself accordingly?
So honestly, we exist as a brand because we cater to the millennials. Our TG is anywhere between 15 years to 25 years. And so, what we've seen is that waffles probably 5 years back as a category didn't really exist. And, we started because we thought there is a white space there and we could do something interesting. And we've seen great receptiveness towards the product. We've seen a natural acceptance. The way I see this is that, today when we just talk about food, I think there is enough and more room for everyone, given the kind of consumer story India is, to come up with interesting and innovative products. Now, when we do that, we not only need to think about the product, we also need to think about the delivery formats in which the products will be given, and what kind of TG or target audience you're going to look at. And then probably it's a whole host of things. So one is the product, the second is the delivery format, Third is the entire experience in store with regards to a particular TG that you have in mind. So a lot of these factors play an important role when we actually think about, talking about FMB and talking about products. Frankly speaking, the way I've seen the consumer behavior evolve, and maybe, the last couple of years has accelerated that behavior, but with the advent of a Swiggy or a Zomato or players like that, I think, like we talk about omni-channel here, I think it's just become very omni-channel, where you again need to further innovate your product. Like, for example, waffles are best consumed fresh when made at the store. But we had to go back to the drawing board when we saw the trend changing, where, a significant percentage of our sales just started coming through delivery as a format. And that actually holds true for a lot of people now, where delivery has just become a natural part of it. Another thing that we did, and we saw a certain change in consumer behavior happen, was with the pandemic, where I think Indians, relative to the West, sorry to say, but have always been a little lax when it comes to a lot of quality conscious matters or, protocols. But now we are seeing that consciousness amongst the, Indian consumers as well. And it's very important for the brands to adapt to that. Now, when you talk about our store formats, which are like hardly 100 or 150 or 200 square feet, within that, now how do we redesign our store formats? How do we kind of put the right protocols in place in terms of, say sanitization, or we have an open kitchen. So, how do we ensure that that experience is not diluted? The staff is following the right SOPs. I think these are a lot of things, which we've also learned and evolved as a brand, of what to do, what not to do, and what to do better, which probably, is the new norm, honestly.
Thank you, great. I think we pretty much summed it up pretty well. If I go to this with the same question to Raghav. Raghav, you have already a very well-oiled omni-channel system in place. And during pandemic, I understand it kind of grew a bit more. But having said that, majority of a customer, in my assumption, and you would rather have them come to your store or a place where you control better and where you can offer your product the way it's meant to be consumed. In that context, if you were to really make us understand, if you were to take up a space, for example, in the new generation malls or the shopping center or any asset class in future where you would rather have your store open, what are your expectations from those developers, and what all other factors that you like them to be integrated in those social spaces, really?
I think it's a very important question to answer that, is dine-in our core experience business that we're trying to create, or is it at the end of the day, when you look at it from a customer perspective, today a customer is looking at where
Great. I think experience is something Ankit also mentioned. And you also are trying to assess how it is integrated in the sense that the experience is great, and it's also technology friendly so that there's a seamlessness around it. And we have on our panel a very interesting sort of a product which I would like to talk about and hear more about from Sunil. Sunil, I think what the product that you have currently, and I would be very happy if you could briefly tell us what you really do and how do you enhance the experience of a consumer as well as the retailers, and how do you redefine a social space going inside a shopping center. If you could enlighten the audience as well.
Sure. So I think the way we look at, and perhaps everyone would agree, that as competition increases, the shift amongst every retailer or product owner will shift from so-called 4 Ps of marketing to new jargons which are being used as 4 Es, that how the experience which will create the brand. And when we talk about the experience creating the brand, the focus, in fact, is nowadays how do we create the sonic identity of the brand. So brands have visual identity, and every brand managers, retail space owners have been focusing on that. But one of the trends which is getting global attention is that what is the sound of the brand? And if we create the elements of the sound of the brand, are we using those elements in every consumer touch point, whether it is advertising, whether it is the music at the outlets, or it could be music in the social media, etc. Is there a consistent experience consumer is getting of the brand? And we have been doing this of late with some of the leading brands, where we not only create the sound architecture of the brand, but then with the same architecture, we curate the music which should play in the retail environment. Also develop with them social media activities around that music, so that consumer everywhere get the same experience. And this is very different because everywhere in malls and retail outlets, people have been using music without realizing that how that music is creating any impact on the, adding the value to the brand, or is it just an expense? And our research which has been done, and some of the leading brands which have done research, shows that generic music just creates a radio experience. It's not about the brand experience. So I think it's a trend, and we have seen that it is gaining momentum, and we are working with brands to create that kind of experience in their retail outlets on this.
So, integration of technology, adaptation of a sonic identity. Yeah. What else, Mohit? Anything else that you think would really make this work as a next generation of a social space and the next generation of consumers that are knocking on the doors right now?
So the way I look at it, fundamentally, at its very core, brands work around what the customer wants. So if the customer wants them to be, let's say, more sensitive to hygiene, or if the customer wants them to be, give them a certain kind of experience, a different kind of product, etc., etc., brands need to repivot or redo their business model around what the customer is expecting. If the customer is moving from standalone locations or high streets to malls, then the brands need to move with that. So it's pretty much centered around the customer, and brands have done it in the past. I heard Ankit talk about how his brand is meant for the current generation, and that's a big challenge that some of the brands which are older, like ourselves, have. Our brand has not necessarily been around for the last, let's say, 10 years. We've been around for the last maybe 75 or 80 years. And there is a huge challenge in terms of how do we keep reinventing ourselves to keep the brand relevant to what today's customer wants, not what his parents wanted or not what his grandparents wanted. Which means that you need to reinvent your entire menu, which means that you need to reinvent what your stores look like, which means you need to reinvent what your delivery model looks like, and so on and so forth, and the journey continues. It's a never-ending journey. So today, as we, customers are now back to moving into malls. There was a period of time when they were a little reluctant, and so were we. So in those 2 years, we did not open any stores in malls. But today, the customer is back, is comfortable again, and we are again comfortable moving into those malls. Tomorrow, the customer may want to get into amusement parks, and so will we be there. So the journey marries and mirrors the journey of a customer.
So in that context, again, if I can ask you a follow-up question on that, Mohit. The customers are coming back, and you have to redefine your product. You've been there for the longest time, and you understand the consumer behavior probably better than anybody else. What are your expectations would be from our mall developers to make it slightly more convenient for you to understand, one, those consumers, and two, change accordingly, or adopt something else?
Sure. So, when you look at, let's say, ice creams as a category, not just in India, but worldwide, it's not necessarily a dine-in category. At least we don't look at it like that. It's a pretty transactional category. It's a category which, it's a kind of product that I would like to enjoy while being on the move. It's something I would enjoy when I take my kid out to the mall, or if I was a little younger, perhaps if I take my girlfriend out to the mall, I would like to possibly share an ice cream or maybe even a waffle or a coffee along, with whosoever I have gone with. The malls today do not make that possible. It is not easy for customers because most of the stores like ours are dumped in one corner in the food court, and that's not necessarily easy for the customer to have that kind of experience, which he could have had these food kiosks been around the mall maybe. So that's one of the things. The cost factor is obviously another one because our businesses, our QSR businesses, if you were to call it that, are not necessarily the most profitable of the lot. And if you were to give the kind of margins that you have to give to the mall developers and the kind of margins that you have to pay or the kind of commissions that you need to pay to your delivery partners, etc., there's very little left for you.
Okay. So, Chaitanya, you agree? You agree with Mohit? When he says cost part is a separate discussion altogether, but from the point of view as to how you're placed in a mall and how friendly it is for someone to really pick something up and walk around in the mall.
Yeah, no, I think I completely agree with what Mohit is saying. I mean, I need to tell a backstory in terms of our own sort of thesis, right? So we started pre-pandemic with a delivery model in coffee, right? So we have a pan-India footprint of close to 170 cloud coffee outlets. So we are fastest growing coffee brand. And now the focus for us is, as we are coming out of the pandemic, to bring coffee convenience to our customers even in offline. So we don't see online, offline as, two different channels. End of the day, it's all, the customer, depending on the moment of consumption, where they are. So we look at on the go, at work, at home, travel, all these occasions. So when it comes to commercial malls, to go back to your specific question, we do see a lot of opportunities that are outside India slowly coming in the Indian context as well. So for example, having a coffee in your hand while you're shopping is something that we don't see, but that's something that actually, is a very natural thing. So how do we enable, we all feel, how do you create more occasions, more formats? As most of you seen, the Slay Coffee Bar outlet we have is 100 square feet grab and go that can fit anywhere. It's modular, it's space efficient. So I think there is a lot of opportunity for brands, in categories across, not just F&B, to listen to the customer voice very closely and keep innovating. And the trends are shaping very fast. So being able to, understand the customers. So at Slay, we look at our customer as conscious, as sophisticated, as action-oriented. So we do make conscious decisions in terms of being a non-plastic brand. We also look at how premium choices they do, but they are also affordable. So a great cup of coffee starting at $100, is almost like a utility. So I think we all have these great opportunities in our respective categories to keep innovating. Both in terms of our distribution as well as in terms of layering in experiences beyond the product.
Great. If I can quickly go to Raghav on the same point. Raghav, do you also agree that in a social space like a shopping center, you do need various touch points, not just necessarily maybe a large store, but a touch points where it's easier for the consumer to really maybe pick a beverage or a quick snack and walk around and sort of still be able to shop with ease?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we've had we have 2-3 malls where we actually have 2 stores in the same mall. So there where you have footfall happening on different floors. So what we say, the kind of formats and floors that work for us are the non-food court floors, because there are customers already gone to the food court. They really want to have a meal. But say any other floor, whether it is a women's shopping floor, it is a men's shopping floor, it is a cafe which is close to a hypermarket, all of those work very well for us because it integrates very well into the shopping journey. It can easily fit in as a small island kiosk, which gives a customer, you shop for half an hour, you want to take a small 10-minute, 15-minute break, you want to have a quick cup of chai, grab a snack, and then move on with the shopping journey. And it's something that mall developers are also realizing, that the presence of such kind of refueling stations is actually very beneficial. And just having food on one floor and having all beverage on one floor necessarily does not work from a customer standpoint.
Great. If I can come back to my fundamental question and ask this to Mr. Kumrawal. So your business, spa and saloon business, is typically maybe I anticipate a massive shift in the consumption pattern post-pandemic, of course, if I have to use the term at all. How do you think this shift is going to change, and medium to short term, where do you see it's going? Because your product or experience requires, a physical contact of some sort.
Yeah.
How do you, how did you prepare yourself for the post-pandemic times or the current environment? And how do you see it evolving going forward?
Yeah. Happy morning to all the fellow panelists and my friends out there. I run Natural Salon. When I come to Bombay, I need to reintroduce myself. I'm not an ice cream brand, I run salons. So that is the first qualifier. The second one is, before the pandemic, I used to say that as long as your hair grows, our business grows. But during the pandemic, your hair was growing, our business was not growing. So that was how much the change has happened. The customer before the pandemic used to look at the brand name Naturals, the interiors of the salon. The stylist will play a very important role. What products are we using? What is the pricing? What is the offer? Is it near to my office, near to my house? These were the parameters the customer used to consider before selecting a salon. After pandemic, there is only, or during the pandemic, there is only one criteria. Is it safe for me? What was SOP before, which is the standard operating procedures? We converted to OSP after that, which is the operation standard protocol. We hired a doctor who told us what to do and what not to do. And that's how much preparations we have done to ensure, considering both the customers and the smile providers. We call our service providers as the smile providers. As a pandemic, as a asymptomatic patient, one will not transmit to others. That's how much the change has happened in the salon. Going future, I think we are now talking about safety first, customer first, and mobile first. Any retail business or any business which is not discoverable in the mobile phone has become a dinosaur. So how are we going to make that customer to discover our business in the mobile phone is going to be the biggest opportunity and challenge for us. We are looking at a lot of beauty tech businesses, Oyo of salons, Zomato of salons, Baiju of salons, and how can we, modify the same urban company what has created? Can we make that into a profit making at the same time beauty tech companies? These are some of the thoughts which we are working on at this point of time. Pandemic has been a great learning and a great experience. My favorite quote of Alvin Toffler is that the illiterates of the 21st century are not the ones who cannot read and write. The illiterates of the 21st century are the ones who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. It's a time to learn, unlearn, and relearn, especially unlearn to a large extent.
That's a beautiful quote. Thank you so much, sir. If I can just quickly go around the table and, ask you this, because it seems to me it looks like a very pertinent question, because we're having this conversation in the shadow of a new variant today. Tomorrow, something else might crop up. We hope not. But these are the times that we live in. Is it safe to say, if I can start from Ankit, is it safe to say, Ankit, that we are from this last 1.5, 2 years? Are we better prepared for anything else that happens tomorrow? Now we know when to pivot and how much to balance. Are we slightly better off than how we were? Because of learning, and of course, from both sides, from the consumer's point of view as well as from the product point of view as well.
So I think there are several things here. You know, human beings live forwards, learn backwards, and that's the way of life. When, you know, back in April 2020, we were a lot clueless. There was a lot more fear around COVID. And I think somewhere now everyone's learned to live with it. I mean, kudos to our doctors and the entire medical fraternity for coming with vaccinations also to address this. So somewhere I feel to a large extent the fear around COVID is subsided. I wouldn't say the threat of COVID has gone, so we always need to keep our guards up. When COVID hit, you know, all of us were clueless. No one had ever imagined that stores will be shut and, you know, for 2-3 months in a row with little to no revenue, and that's across the board, right? No economic activity whatsoever. So from that, you know, I mean, they say necessity is the mother of all inventions. So I think all of us have evolved and, you know, we've not only learned to live with COVID, but we've learned to live with what happens should an eventuality like this hit, whether it's COVID or something else probably in future. So I definitely feel we are better prepared, but there's always room for improvement, and as times move forward, we'll always keep learning new things. But yes, definitely, you know, I mean, it's accelerated everyone's pace of growth. It's accelerated everyone's pace of digitization. And these are some of the good things that have actually come out of COVID, which, yeah, I mean, unfortunate to have so many deaths. But there are some good things on the business side. This is how I would look at it on the positive side, that this is how it's actually changed businesses, it's changed consumers, and it's made things better.
Right. Raghav, my essential question was, has this period kind of really prepared us to start something new very, very quickly and not rather be reactive and try and at least be prepared to preempt something else? Do you think something like this from your business model that you're prepared with?
Yeah, I think the last 1.5, 2 years have made us all mentally more agile, mentally more adaptable, mentally more resilient. I think these are three things that have definitely come out of it. Today, all of us sitting on this pedestal, everybody in this audience, everyone is more cognizant of, you know, when you hit your rock bottom, how do you react fast, how do you innovate fast, how do you prepare yourself for any kind of circumstance. Yeah, I think that's a great learning. Our generation did not have such extreme events to deal with in the past. I think this has been one of those that will teach all of us a lot in the future.
Mohit, do you agree with Mr. Kumrawal when he says, everybody says rather, the adaptation of technology?
So, you know, my answer to the specific question that you asked is an unqualified yes. I think we are hugely better prepared. And when I say we are hugely better prepared, I mean across the ecosystem. So right from our supply chain to our factories, we have learned how to cope with it. We've learned how to produce better, how to stock better, how to transport better. Across our front-end stores, our sales teams have learned, our store staff have learned, and so have we in the head office, in our marketing teams, how to engage better with customers, how to deliver better, and so on and so forth. So are we better prepared? The answer is an unqualified yes, we are better prepared. We don't know what's going to happen, but we definitely believe that we are poised at a very, very good point right now. To the extent that I would go out, you know, at the cost of sounding immodest, we are on the way to having our most profitable year yet in the history of our company. So that goes to tell you that, you know, there are things that have been going right and will go right.
I think that's a fantastic answer. Thank you so much for that. Chaitanya, I'll have the same question for you as well. How it kind of changed your thought process, and what are we still evolving, are still doing something, thinking about it, that in case of an eventuality, this is what we are going to do?
Right. So I think, firstly, I completely agree that we are better prepared, and we've seen something that we haven't seen in a 100-year cycle, and we came out pretty well. And I think as a race, as a society, as countries, we're doing a fairly good job. But I think for us to continue to be, surviving and not just survive but thrive, we also need to be conscious. We need to have a collective approach rather than, sort of a individualistic approach. And as brands, I think I go back to my earlier comment that we have to be customer obsessed. We have to do everything what customer is behaving, what they're anticipating, and always stay a couple of steps ahead and be humble, be conscious, and do what's right for the customer and the society, and things will be fine.
So you have something to say?
Yeah, I just want to go beyond COVID. This is a challenging phase, and I think we'll pass through. Since I am from a music domain, I would like to just share that this phase which we are going through, there's a structural change happening in the music scenario in India. The next couple of years, the future of music is going to be non-Bollywood music. If you would have seen, last 1 year, almost every FM radio, etc., mass media, they have started playing non-Bollywood thing. And the reason is because the choices are getting fragmented. And second, in Bollywood, the filmmaking is now no more around the songs and music. It's different style they are doing. This is opening up huge opportunities for the retail segment. Let me tell you, especially about the malls also. When any mall starts, one of the things is that you have PVR complexes or movie multiplexes and also food, etc., because they get the footfall. One of the things what I see in future is that paid live events will be a big thing which will happen. And in India, infrastructure for paid live events are just not there. There are just few clubs where maximum 100 odd people can participate. Malls will have that advantage that if they can create the area which is segregated for 1,000 odd people, 1,500 odd people, the paid live events will become a huge trend which is going to happen about the live music in India. And the second thing is that trend of live music can be used by a lot of brands to enhance their experiences. For example, I was just hearing, for example, and they have a birthday cake, for example, ice cream cake. Now that is one product per se which is there. What if someone wants to present that ice cream cake, he also presents with the same brand aligned live performance to that guy. So he buys a cake and the artist goes along with the cake and creates a music evening for them.
That's a very, very interesting idea and thought. I hope we all sort of adopt it going forward. That's all the time we have today, gentlemen, and thank you very much for joining us again.